added a new wing to the emotional abuse simulator. The We have tours. It's free Sundays. Join us right now. Oh God.
Reset Simulator. Initialize Multidimensional Toxicity Space Module. Docent of Toxicity. Welcome to the Multidimensional Toxicity Space. While you are visiting us...
Hold on. This is what happens when I toxicity. Toxicity.
Reset Simulator. Initialize Multidimensional Toxicity Space Module. Docent of Toxicity. Welcome to the Multidimensional Toxicity Space. While you are visiting us during our free Sundays, you are also encouraged to donate however and wherever you wish upon leaving. Anything can give will go a long way in our efforts to preserve the toxic traditions of our society, forging the path into the toxic unknowns of the future. Walk this way. Here is the collection of portraits where you will be able to encounter the inner state of souls suffering from the vast array of emotional abuse, psychologically abusing, underappreciated, overworked employees, verbally attacking without pause your family and friends, relationally abusing each other with endless criticism and passive-aggressive comments, employees fighting to be heard in the noise institutions silencing women, people of color, and minority groups, as well as making it hard for students to feel supported in an academic environment. Performers attacking each other on stage, mocking, laughing at each other's performances, insulting and belittling, intentionally, socially, professionally. Adults abusing their own mental abilities in such a manner as to create traumatic and confusing spaces for children and teens to navigate. It was a beautiful, mesmerizing yet ominous performance to know how quickly someone could be consumed by toxicity in any environment. On the dark side, however, it can take weeks, months, and years for some to find the confidence and drive to escape. Even a seemingly positive coping mechanism can turn into a negative force against one's soul, crumpling it into unrecognizable pieces. Oh yes, one thing to keep in mind in our simulation of abuse is that there is a good abuse, where an older friend helps nurture a younger friend. Here, an elderly woman who is often asked for advice and guidance from the community actually takes the time and energy to pay attention and actively help without belittling. Docent. And here is the supremacy leaderboard. Yes, all supremacies. White don't have the monopoly on that. There are literally infinite forms of power dynamics that inform abuse, interconnected and inclusive, all the multi-layered experiences and insights gathered through time and experiences in such a coded and misaligned situation. Yes, everything is abuse. Life is abuse. One solution, of course, is the fight for social justice and solidarity among everyone fighting and being dehumanized. While it's inevitable that there are instances where someone being verbally attacked without pause is saying something they shouldn't, or at least not a phrase worthy of an emotional attack. As with all aspects of human interaction and relationship building, emotional abuse is nuanced and subjective. Addressing emotional abuse, therefore, requires acknowledging these nuances and attending to cultural biases and frameworks. It can be argued that emotional abuse exists in various forms and levels. This has led to disagreements in its definition, making it difficult for individuals to recognize and call out emotional abuse. The potential solutions or interventions to overcome emotional abuse range from using the justice system to implement penal measures, employing prevention methods to train people how to handle verbal or physical violence, and fostering healthy relationships by helping survivors develop resilience and a sense of self worth. Nevertheless, an awareness of the complexities and realities of emotional abuse, critical analysis, and informed activism are necessary to initiate positive changes. Implementing interventions that respect individuals' circumstances and identifying unique factors that influence the phenomenon of emotional abuse, therefore, is the first step in developing empathy and promoting respectful and considerate approaches towards all forms of interpersonal abuse. It is time to stop turning a blind eye to emotional abuse and encourage participation in productive discourse and conversation about it. So, how about changing the language to refer to all forms of emotional abuse, or something less aggressive, like different forms of emotional abuse and toxicity in daily life? Is there a better way to confront and navigate toxic dynamics within existing relationships or new ones we are forming? How can we hold ourselves and others accountable for moving beyond abusive patterns and continue to evolve into more compassionate, healthy interactions and self awareness? With this understanding, our concept of emotional abuse has expanded to include varying forms, some being particularly damaging or severe. Here is the whole of abusive euphemisms, or abusive feminisms. As you browse through these rooms, you may have questions about the meanings and cultural connotations of certain phrases and words that one might consider inappropriate, vulgar, rude, indecent, or obscene. They have been assembled here in a mosaic, starting with an anachronistic reminder that some forms of abuse are deeply embedded in language and even gender identity. Some phrases are just a thinly veiled excuse to sexually harass others or assert dominance over women. Often, the abuse refers to an injury or hurt that can be replicated to cause emotional or physical damage. Here's the dog whistle wind tunnel, a powerful but uncontrolled stream of bigotry and microaggression, sending many victims to the sidewalks or back alleys. To hear the high-pitched sounds of the wind, close your eyes and feel the fury of intolerance. Have you met the shout whisperer, who quietly berates and demeans in this age of internet silence? The silent partner or nodding scapegoat provide some welcome relief in comparison to the shrill attacks of more aggressive abusers. And just down the corridor, take a look at the simulation of sexual assault algorithms, or algo apps. These nihilistic programs enable users to experiment with victimization, control, and coercion. We don't think that machine learning algorithms can fully comprehend the nuance and gravity of emotional abuse.
I beg to
But
differ.
these abrasive tools continue to become popular among users and companies. Please make sure to register your comments and feedback with them so that we can maintain the integrity of their system for perpetuity. This one is a dual joint with the Holocaust Museum. Exhibit A. Here, the Emotional Abuse Gallery and exam table rooms that focuses on various forms of victimization. However, the central exhibit in the Hall of Shame, Exhibit B, presents examples of abuses rooted in history, such as torture chambers, slave ships, and the prison system, which demonstrates the destructive consequences of prolonged exposure to emotional abuse. Here are the stairs leading up to the rape culture bump and stack, an elaborate game of Risk or Monopoly where players interact with landmarks and money stacks to build resilience and financial networks. Patron, why do you think AI can't understand emotional abuse? Don't we need to code emotional intelligence into it so that it recognizes and responds appropriately? Janitor, sometimes it's better to leave the judgment to the programmers and AI experts. Just one criticism, though, that lack of emotional understanding and nuance can be a death knell for the concept and purpose of building artificial companions or friends. Here we strive to eliminate abuse of all kinds, creating an environment where empathy and understanding are embraced and respected, never revoked or distorted. That being said, what we also need to consider is how to educate ourselves and others about how to recognize, react, and report emotional abuse, not just in a simulator, but in the real world too. Let's hope we continue to evolve as a society and move away from problematic, rigid perspectives towards a more compassionate and mutual worldview. A human future lies in healthy relationships and spaces, and it's up to all of us to foster and grow from that into an uncertain future. Thank you for joining me today. Enjoy the multidimensional toxicity space from anywhere and any point of entry. Patron, what's the equivalent of Kanchak and the rape culture bump and stack? Mental health is more than a distant concept. Emotional abuse plays a significant role in psychological trauma, mental illness, and suicide. However, most psychologists and psychiatrists choose not to discuss the prevalence and impact of emotional abuse during sessions in therapy because they consider it such a fundamental problem in our society. We fear it may have such deeply ingrained negative messages and impediments that any recognition or analysis might feel fruitless. After all, recognizing abuse does not remove the harm it has already inflicted. There are thousands of interpersonal interactions in a single day, all with the potential for emotional impact. Each discussion, exchange, touch, or interaction with an audience member, friend, or stranger can lead to an internal collapse, depression, or self doubt that lingers and stifles creativity, progress, and decision making. Confronting this reality without the adequate intervention and tools can make navigating emotional trauma seem insurmountable. That's why people tend to hold emotional abuse, like depression and anxiety, as their dirty little secret. Oh, here's the unaliving arboretum. Yes, it's an emotional toxin and an arbor crime that you may explore as a botanist or a detective. So dark, isn't it? You may encounter deadly seeds of words or objects in this hall, or even an anticlimactic argument complete with murder and drama. And here's the self-hate zapper game, or Selgun. It includes a long row of mirrors lined with wires that zap you every time you attack or cut yourself off from the world. Patron. I don't think we are that fragile. At least not with just anyone. Toxic language itself isn't the harm. It's the one wielding it right. So, what is the specific harm of emotional abuse? Janitor, forgive me. There is so much bad blood in our community right now. Of course, no one is beyond reproach. But perhaps instead of thinking about the consequences of emotional abuse as static or singular, we can recognize its power as fractal, evolving, and responsive to circumstances and contexts. In my community, there's a term called dinkiri, meaning emotional trauma and sorrow. One well-known story in the Nigerian community is the Korisha show and Adamu myth. It talks about a man who was a source of emotional pain to his wives, children, and employees. Rather than acting on the impulse to ignore or fight back, They find ways to heal from their shared experience by supporting each other, telling their stories, and listening actively to one another. The cultural narrative provides a reassuring sense of possibility for how communities can engage with each other to cultivate emotional well being in the face of all the obstacles they've overcome. Perhaps storytelling, cultural healing, and communal responses to emotional abuse in various forms and depths will help us connect in this fraught time of global crisis and digital obsession. There are signs and spaces waiting to be seated with support, laughter, and reflection in this battle for sanity, survival, and the courage to speak our truth. Here, in our Museum of Healing, we use digital and physical technology to connect and unify our families, artists, healers, and activists to fight emotional abuse with the conviction and compassion necessary to create a culture of transparency and accountability. Enjoy your journey through the fascinating, funny, arcane, emotional swamp filled with wit, venom, and beauty all at once. Oh, and don't forget your exit token. They really can mean everything. There are billions of forms of emotional abuse and toxic personalities out there, waiting to strike. Only with genuine attention and regard can we create a world of love and empathy for others. In the end, we are all worthy of living in a universe filled with mutual understanding and respect. Please hold on to that vision and do everything in your power to promote and protect such a miracle in the face of a great tragedy that is forever unfolding in real time. If we only knew how to create such a cosmos. Right? Patron. That was beautiful. But what I don't understand is why focus on recognition first? Why not focusing on preventing the abuses of emotional languages that evade your detectives or protections? Janitor, like I said, trying to prevent emotional abuse is an unending task that is complicated and constantly evolving. Most emotional abuse is not intentional, but something that arises out of ignorance, toxic dynamics, and life experiences. People try to compensate for the limitations of their perceptions by calling on whatever tool seems best. Patron. Billions of types. Isn't there just like one type or one particular set of behaviors? Janitor. Right. Not sure you've understood how wide and complex the field of emotional abuse is. It includes categories such as physical abuse, emotional abuse, psychological abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, and so on. Imagine a
Floral?
pyramid of 64 colors in the RGB space, each layer representing a unique variation, relationship, and trajectory in the emotional landscape. You might even venture into some obscure distortions and hyperlogics that exist in self defined dimensions. These experiences, while disturbing and perplexing, provide a much more dynamic understanding of emotional and psycho. Social space. Our collective consciousness is multidimensional, fractal, and multicellular, and we all are the unique synthesis of everyone we encounter and interact with throughout the endless network. Oh, is that even real? Or am I inside a fantasy? No matter how many levels we dive into the emotional narrative, we will never fully grasp the absurd and luminous mystery that is life. So many secrets are buried in our hearts, heads, and backrooms. As in death, we will not find our way to any final salvation or meaning until we address the traumas and shames of our time and culture. That's why we believe that learning to use emotional language responsibly and respectfully is critical to addressing the most disruptive and dangerous systems of injustice. Any simulation or simulation game will allow us to sharpen our empathy skills and increase our compassion for others in various contexts. Can I ask, by the way, how your interest in emotional abuse arose? Did you lose a loved one or experience some form of emotional mistreatment yourself? Please feel free to disclose or not. Whatever's within your comfort level. Patron, truthfully, I've been trained to recognize and escape emotional abuse. It's a tool in my toolkit for personal and professional success. For from what you've shown me today. However, it's made me wonder how it could all be utilized and harnessed for the greater good. All in all, emotional abuse as a concept seems fascinating and deserving of further analysis. While the concept is familiar and often addressed, the diversity of its manifestations and impact are yet to be understood. But more specifically, my reasons for coming here are actually centered around information, statistics, and how those go to better visualize and monitor behavioral patterns in the ongoing national epidemic of digital toxicity. I noticed some projections in the courtyard that can further elaborate on this concept, where you can walk or live these archetypes and explore their traits and emotional outcomes. The results can also be uploaded to create composite characterizations and case studies that help us learn and intervene better. Given your apparent enthusiasm and passion for the subject, would it be too presumptuous for me to imagine that you are the lead program? Here? Janitor! Interesting. By the way, speaking of digital technology, you can play the art dealer bot-ton in the museum's online section featuring 500 billion high-res JPEG and GIF works of art from actual museums and private collections from across the world. Well, nothing remains constant, not even technology, science, or art, and of course, language. Never settle for dead ends and excuses, but for nuance and possibilities. If you search far enough, the abstract nature of linguistics will reveal the hidden gems that no dictionary can contain. It's in the secret subdivisions, defunct synonyms, and cryptic word origins. Maybe we should turn our project toward that approach. Oh, who am I kidding? Maybe language and experiences can bridge us all together. The rest is not meant for our ears or eyes. Time for a quick pop-up performance or digital showcase in the museum's Hall of Musical Chops, featuring award-winning international acts and breakout stars. It's incredible how music can be a catharsis and connect to the shared humanity of all who come into its wake. There are plenty of virtual gigs, free trial videos, and game streams. On a darker note, imagine a secret message embedded in the tune that suggests emotional abuse, whether from your workmate, loved ones, or even media corporations. What do you make of that? It's funny how language works. Some words take on new meanings or get subverted to other ends altogether. And how human cruelty and cruelty can always shine through even in the cleanest environments, as if it were oxygen. Have you heard of the quote, hate the air we breathe? Its meaning is unclear or multifaceted, but some associate it with the notion of oxygen having no choice but to permeate every environment. More loosely, the phrase suggests that anger and resentment are endemic to the human condition. What say you, docent of toxic energies? Should we push back against the natural order or just embrace it? Oh, the Fiona Apple preemptive memorial talent maker beat machine. Yes, emotionally abusing artists or artists like Fiona to get her into performing under certain terms and contracts, but with public apathy can be an appealing challenge for those aspiring to create in various artistic mediums. For each tool and style, there are countless ethical issues to face and disentangle. Is an artist of one voice silencing, curtailing, or glorifying the voices of others? And which will spark the explosion of silence down to slogans and dust? Ah, yes. I think we may have inadvertently crossed dimensions. Or at least simulated subdimensions. My memory is a little foggy. Patron, are you showing me art of me making art to you? Like, what is this conversation we are having that contains textually informed and surreal representations of being in an environmental environment presenting emotionally violent and textual space? I'd love to stay for tea, but I have some work to do. Please let me know how to improve my understanding of emotional abuse through your art gallery and PlayStation. Are there any books or pamphlets, educational posters, or 3D holograms or transcend, and oral waves of simulated wisdom? This investigation, or maybe I should say inquiry, has left me in need of additional resources and enlightenment. It's obvious that recognizing emotional abuse is far from straightforward or definitive, but more critical thinking and informed evaluation is needed to reach constructive resolutions. Sorry for the rapid fire speech there. Do you recommend reading material or research forums and specialists on emotional abuse? Some folks might say my constant search for knowledge and expansion is simply empty gesture or even apathy, but in fact, it's an attempt to cultivate depth and reflect complexity. Docent. Oh, you can work at our Bill Cosby Memorial Food Court. 'Cause he's dead now. Whatever. Anyway, everyone's hungry. Hey? Is that funny? Oh, come on. Not enough? Fine. Let me try again. Emotional abuse could be summed up in the quote, "Pain only comes after emotion has been acknowledged." Said no one ever. Haha, not funny. Okay, let me start over. Hi, my name is Lola. Everyone calls me Ox. Hey, please talk less about art and focus more on unloading the cash register. Your apron's backwards. Come, get out of that nonsensical head of yours and focus. You are falling for the words you are saying, eh? There is nothing more dangerous than that. Okay? Like, seriously. Let me go on social media and annoy someone for a while. That's cool. Yeah. Bye. She is funny, isn't she? Patron. Wait, who was that? Were you okay just now? You don't seem. I mean, everything is different in a dreamscape or a museum of artifacts and stories, isn't it? Do we define love as devotion, heartbreak, hope, fear? How do we define words like this? Let's take a photo outside the unaliving arboretum or at the Holocaust exhibition room just to make sure we'll remember and reflect on this. What can be done in real life about emotional abuse? Surely not playing whack-a-mole games. Time's running out, and we don't have a second more to lose. Real solutions and approaches need to be the core of our mutual future. What actionable steps and strategies can we implement and test? Does anyone need a time machine to go back to fix this trauma or build from scratch? Remember, awareness is the key to overcoming emotional abuse, and respect is the basis of self-awareness and personal growth. My interest in emotional abuse is practical, scholarly, and personal. My own experience of intense interactions with emotionally neglectful or abusive partners has fueled my inquiry. Although that was never the explicit aim or path, the inevitable question of what